Hello and welcome to the Divorce to Bliss podcast. Here you will learn all things related to healing from divorce, mind, body, and spirit, so you can create a beautiful new life filled with happiness. I'm Rachel Ruby, author of Divorce to Bliss, divorce coach, speaker, and attorney, and I'm so glad you found me here. Hello and welcome to the Divorce to Bliss podcast. Today we are going to be talking about achieving financial freedom after divorce. This is such an important topic, and I'm really excited to have Dalene Higgins here today with us as my guest. Dalene is the owner of Elevate Finances, and she is a financial coach who helps women realize their financial freedom and change their relationship with money so that they can move on and have a wonderful, beautiful new life after divorce. So welcome, Dalene.
Thank you, Rachel. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. And Dalene doesn't just help people after divorce, but we're focusing on that today. And so I'm so happy to have you here. We'll have all of her contact information up at the end of the podcast, so you can reach out to her if you would like to make an appointment or schedule a call. So let's kind of get started here. First of all, Dalene, why don't you tell us exactly what you do to help people, especially those who are going through divorce and don't know what to do with their financial situation?
Yeah, so a lot of people call themselves a financial educator. I am a financial coach, and I can educate you on the things you know, but I'm there to help women and empower women to find the confidence with the knowledge and with their actions, with their money, and to be able to confidently move forward and be, really strong and creating that life that they want. And so to start, I always take my clients and we create a current financial snapshot. And what I mean by that is we take the situation as it is now. And we look at all of the income, all of the expenses. We look at 3 months history, and we create this, inflow and outflow, and having some leftover or not having some leftover. But I usually have the same feelings from all sorts of individuals. They're like, I just don't know. I just don't know. And a lot of people don't. And, it's very important to, you'll hear the phrase, know your numbers, throw around, but it's really understanding where you are at financially. I had a recent client and she says, I don't know. And we're juggling money, and I think I need to go back to work, and because she's just retired. And I'm like, let's look. So at the end of it, I said, you have money left over at the end of the month. She goes, why don't I feel like it? I said, because you're not managing it, and so creating that. Creating that picture.
It's so helpful that I've never been a numbers person, as I mentioned to you when we talked the other day. And this is such a big asset, I think, for so many women, because it's a fear. You mentioned a quote to me that I thought was really interesting. You said, numbers don't have emotion. Tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, well, numbers are black and white. And prior to my retiring, I helped individuals learn to budget, and it was in law enforcement. They dealt with people with a lot of emotion. And I would always come back to, numbers don't have emotion. They either work or they don't work. And then we shuffle them around till they work. So there's no emotion there, right? There's no driving force from them saying, you have to do this with me. It's our choice,
Right. And I love that. Yeah, I love that, because with a divorce, there is so much emotion in pretty much all of the facets of the, going through the divorce and going through the healing process. It's very emotion based. And I love that this is something that almost feels like you can control it if you're working with someone like you who guides you through the process. And I love the fact that you look individually at each person and each circumstance and, help them make a plan. There's not just a, one and done that applies to everybody. So exactly. I love that. And I love, again, that it's just a little something that I think if you're starting this process and you have a lot of different fears, this is something that might be really good to focus on right like right at the start before anything else, because
Yes.
I think it will almost give people confidence. It will give people confidence to know that, hey, I've got that under control. Right. So that's a wonderful thing.
Exactly.
How do you, what about the situation where, let's say, well, there's a woman who's been working and had a career all throughout the marriage or first part of the marriage. And so when she's divorcing, she is in a great place because she already has an income. So it's not as scary to say the woman who maybe was a housewife taking care of the children for so many years, gave up a career to do so, et cetera. How do you help those two different types of women?
So, they both start at the same spot, right? We look at the numbers where they're at. If we're pre-divorce and we're not exactly sure, what's going to be handed one way or another, we still need to know where we're at financially. And then making assumptions, because budgets are just that. Budgets are assumptions, right? We estimate what we think is going to happen. And I think as you start planning that, especially if you're not currently working and you're headed to looking for a career, knowing the number to then search for a job, right? Instead of just going to get a job and now you've got a job and now it's not going to fit into my numbers, and not to have that be pressure, right? Like, it's like, okay, you've got to go get a job to make this amount. No, it just makes that realization of, okay, what are your skills? Because you do have skills. You had them prior, you had a career prior. You raised your kids, you learned lots of skills there as well. Take those skills and then go and apply where you need to. And maybe you don't need to go work full time. Maybe you only need to go part time. And having that understanding and heading out is important. And the individual with a career, is that going to be, where they need to pay child support, or have they already, or is it going to change? Or, there's some of those things that affect maybe, I don't know, maybe they're going to have to cover medical insurance. I don't know how all of those things work, but just thinking through those options, if you have that career, is that going to impact you? And now are you going to have some of your expenses go up? But just knowing your springboard, right? Your financial snapshot of where you're at to move forward, Yeah,
that's amazing, because I think, like, when you were talking about the women who maybe don't have the career and going out and looking, that this would be the tool for before you go out and look. I love that concept, because it's really going to depend on, what your bills are. And like you said, things that people may not think about, like insurance or, children, and what the former spouse may or may not be contributing to all of this. And so it's really nice to, be able to look at all of those factors and then go and look for the job to kind of fit the peg in, the circle into the round hole, right? So I love that. I know you and I were talking about financial fear, and that is one of the two biggest fears that I see when I coach women through divorce. And I think that that financial fear is such a big part of the decision whether or not to divorce, and then also once you do divorce, of just starting that healing process. So what are the biggest money fears that you see from your perspective, and how do you teach someone to conquer those?
Yeah. So, there's 4 common money fears. And I think we either know somebody with these fears, or maybe ourselves we can recognize. So they are fear of power and authority, fear of the past, fear of being responsible, and fear of failure. And I'm sure in any facet of life, we've experienced these similar fears. And coming out of, marriage, if it was very, control driven, a lot of power, you may experience that fear working with money, that it has to be this way or another. And that's a black and white issue. And understanding that money has no emotion, right? But it's still black and white, and it can be moved to wherever it needs to be moved. And then fear of the past usually has a trauma. And so recognizing this fear and healing this fear, right? Healing the trauma and stuff is very mindful. So this person, as they're approaching money, needs to take very small steps. So as you start learning to work with your money, it's going to take some time, and it's going to be more as a moment by moment transformation. And so hopefully you're not the individual that wants to see grandiose, efforts and results. So being able to do that. And that definitely would require a counselor to work with you. Money coach, yes, will handle the money, but to heal that trauma. So if that's come from the divorce and recognizing that, and just, these can be found in how you think about your money and how you're working with your money. And so that's how you start recognizing these fears, and maybe as you're coming up on divorce, the fear of being responsible, that might be a new fear, right? And having somebody to support you. So for that, if you're scared, maybe you're new to handling money, have somebody to help you, have a money team. And this team needs to be, to provide you support, but hopefully one of those or two of those are not emotionally connected to that they can help you with the money more soundly and being able to be responsible without the emotion. And then fear of failure. We all fail, right? And so recognizing that that's just part of the learning, part of the growth. The inventor of the Spanx, her name was Sarah. And she shares that her father, every night at the dinner table, would ask her about her failures of the day. And she goes, he normalized them so much for me that it was just a moment of learning, a moment of growth. And while we may not have been conditioned to grow up that way or be that way, recognizing that, okay, we tried something that didn't work. What didn't work? And what do you need to do different? What could you try different?
Right.
So, and not getting that fear to, stop you from making progress. That's the biggest thing in all of those fears.
Yeah.
Work through them.
Yeah, I love her story. I've seen her talk about that, about the father asking, what did you do today to fail? Or what failures did you? I love it. Just makes you stronger. Yeah. So that's really interesting. All of those fears and learning how to conquer them. And again, just having someone to guide you along that way. And what about, I know you mentioned something about worth. Can we talk a little more about that with the job? And I'd love to go a little deeper into that.
So when working with clients, I try to remind them, I do a lot, right? Depending on the type of client, that our worth is not tied to our money. We are worth separately from our money, right? Even if we're in a certain paying job, that pay we're getting is not our worth. That is just the skills that we're being paid for. We're worth quite a bit, and we're worth a lot more than anybody could pay us. And so recognizing that as you're handling your money, that is not worth, that is not your value. That is just monetarily, right? This is a barter system. This is the means of us being able to have a home, have the lights on, have water, that it has nothing to do with I deserve this or I don't deserve this. It's not that. We all deserve good, right? Yeah. And so being able to recognize that worth, and I think is a good step from in that scarcity mindset and moving to that abundance. I am worth a lot. And once you recognize that, say you're making $10 an hour. If you're like, I am worth a lot and I am worth $100 an hour or $200 an hour, you will find it because your confidence will show, right? You will be able to, and people will see you'll glow. And so recognizing that, okay, at the end of the month, you have, $100 left over in your name. That is not your value. That is not your worth. Yeah. You were able to create your situation and create your situation of abundance. So very important.
Yeah. I love that because, I deal with helping people with a lot with the self-worth and realizing that we are worth so much more. And I love how you mentioned it was what you were talking about was manifestation, and really just knowing that, like you said, if you're at a job making $10 an hour, that you are worth more and you can command more. You can find that. And if you start seeing that and feeling that, and I tell people, envision that, like where will you be? What will you be wearing? What will you, imagine yourself getting that paycheck and holding it in your hand or seeing it deposited in your bank account and see the numbers, and just really, it's such a powerful, powerful tool to be able to do that instead of going down the victim mind, mode and saying, oh, I'm not making enough money. How am I going to pay my bills? You tell yourself, I'm so worth it. I make so much money. I can pay all my bills and save money at the end. And and I love that. I love that you teach that as well, because I think that is so important in any healing journey and any journey, in any learning journey. So, what would be, if I said to you, what are your 3 top tips to help somebody who is just coming out of a divorce, in relationship, to money and being able to create their best life? And that includes from a financial perspective. What would your best tips be for them?
All right. And we've kind of covered them, but to summarize, know your numbers always. And your numbers are going to change. So, the first time you sit down, you're going to create that snapshot. And if you lose focus or things change, you need to sit down and do it again. So always know your numbers, always know what's happening, because that gives you power, right? I coined a phrase back in the day, budgets are powerful and positive. And so knowing your numbers, creating that budget, you have all the power within those numbers. And then secondly, know your worth, right? Know that you're worth more than the value on that number that we just looked at. That is not a portrayal of who you are as a person who is in the community, who is serving, who is a mom or a sister or, whatever it might be. Just know your worth so that you can then be successful in a career if you need to go out, or already in your career if you're. And then number 3, know your options. So, reach out. This is where you create your team, and it can be, real estate, financial advisor, an attorney, and a tax attorney is what I'm thinking of, CPA. If you're thinking after you've done your snapshot, you might need assistance, government assistance, create them a part of your team. The bigger your team, the more knowledge you have, the better decisions you can make. And doing those 3 things, you will be able to create the new life that you deserve, right? That you're worth. I love that. I love the idea of having a team, because again, I talk about having a team in healing as well. This is such an important part of it, is having the right support network in anything that you do, but definitely when you are starting this new life. And I love that. I love that you can help people realize what kind of team members they may need. And why don't you tell us just real quickly about your structure of your programs and what types of programs you have available for people? Okay. So all of my clients, the very first program that we do, it's a semi-coaching session, but it's when we lay out the numbers. So all of the numbers have been submitted. We review them. We look at them together, and we work together to create a spending plan or budget, their term there, and tie that into your goals. I help refine goals. Sometimes people are, not fully sure of what they are wanting future-wise, and they don't understand even short-term goals. So I try to have all my clients create those short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals, and we craft around that. And then if there's a desire for a savings or a debt payoff, that is all completed in this very first, which is a money makeover intensive. And you walk away knowing the path is laid out for you. And then as you start to implement that, if you want support, I have a 3-month program. It's 3 weeks on, 1 week off. And it's a 60-minute session weekly with Voxer messaging in between. So support to help those clients who are starting to implement everything and dealing with now the mindset, right? And how am I going to handle this? And I just experienced this. And there is a lot we can do in just 3 months and being able to support and get the habits, get the routine rolling, just get it started moving down with, think about it. Your best friend's walking you down the road. I might not be your best friend. I would love to be your best friend, but I had a client recently, and after our second session with him, his truck broke down. He was already dire financially, but he says to me, I am so glad this happened while I was working with you. And, but just the growth that we have done together. And it's not just me telling you what to do, it's me coaching what's inside of you, what you already know, but to build up your confidence to implement that plan that we did in the intensive and to get the momentum going.
I love the idea of just creating that path. I'm such a visual person, and just kind of seeing, the road you're going down. And again, like you said, I mean, little things can happen, like with that gentleman you were working with, the truck breaks down, your car breaks down, and this wasn't in the budget. And so then you can come, if people, let's say they go through that planning with you and then they want to come back, do you do individualized sessions after the fact if needed to reevaluate or?
Yep. So if they're wanting to at the end of that 3 month, I do have membership. I can do quarterly or biannually. And that's definitely, if it's biannually, we definitely do that. Intensive is repeated twice a year. Nice. We just review and make sure that path is still, headed in the right direction. And if not, we make adjustments. So yeah.
That's fantastic. I'm going to put it on the screen too, but why don't you tell people where are the best place to go to contact you and look into your programs and get some more information?
Yes. I'm on Instagram mostly, Elevate Finance. So Elevate_finances. I'm also on LinkedIn under Dalene Higgins, and you can visit my website at elevatefinances.us. And I have all the information there of exactly what to expect and how to sign up. And if you want to join my newsletter. So
thank you so much. This is one of my favorite podcasts because this is such a helpful thing. And I have to also mention, which I did before, that you retired. And so this is a job for you. This is your passion. This woman is doing this to really help you, not to make an income. Keep doing what you're doing. And I hope that we can send a lot of people your way. And thank you so much for being here. This was wonderful. And
thank you.
Hopefully we can have you on again in the future.
Sounds great.
Yeah. All right. Thanks so much.